All right, let's test this out with the Trigun Tabletop role-playing game by BESM D20 Gen Eon by Guardians of the Order. This was a licensed supplement back in the 90s, originally published in 2003, where this company, Games of the Order, essentially created something called BESM, Big Eye Small Mouth, which was like the anime system of the time during the D20 glut or massive options. And apparently what during that time happened is that they licensed pretty much like every anime they could get a hold of, with some of their earlier products being, depending on who you ask, pretty decent, with later ones degrading in quality. Now, with the recent release of Trigun, I wanted to go pick this up because when I figured out it existed, I was actually really curious to see what they did with this. And to put it simply, as much as I love the book for all the art that's in here, the tabletop RPG stuff is actually very minimal. So you'll see out of this 187 pages of content, you pretty much only have this white section, which is content, which is probably around 30 pages of ttrpg content. So the rest of this that you see here that is in full color and full of anime screenshots is actually, to my surprise, episode summaries. As you can see, the first episode, I believe, is called The $6 Billion Man. And then we go on, and it kind of does a full, like, not session recap, but essentially it does a recap of each of these episodes. Truth of Mistake. And so if you wanted to, like, not watch the anime and, like, get an entire summary of what happened without watching it, I guess this is the resource for you. I haven't actually fully read through these to see like how accurate they are or if there's additional embellishments involved. I'm doubtful of that just from a licensing perspective. And so you can look through, you can see like several familiar episodes and screenshots that have happened. We jump to the back because originally, that's so cool. I love that shot. The interesting thing, though, is once we jump to the back to the tabletop RPG segment of the book, let me make sure I'm centered here. Whoops. It talks about the BESM system and how to essentially learn more about it. Special attributes are probably of psionic origins. Ability scores above 18 are not common in this universe. So it like gives you some sort of like base idea of how to use the BESM system. And then it kind of goes into cyber technology. And from there, it's just character stats. So, I mean, I love the concept art that we get to see that they obtained, but these stat blocks, if you're familiar with BESM, or even 3rd edition for that matter, so this is actually more akin to... So as someone who has not played BESM, 3rd edition, this will look very familiar, but more so it kind of reminds me very much of Savage Worlds or D20 Modern, where you have attributes of like Armor 1, Art of Distraction 4, Art of Command, where each of these are special abilities that do a certain thing, and those are like your ranks in those special abilities. But you go through and you have like Meryl, you have Millie, Wolfwood. So like already we're getting like the major characters: Millions Knives, Legato, Descartes, Gosif. So it's like Professor Nebraska, like all of the characters and villains throughout the game. And there actually is a little bit of like other game notes, but broadly that is the entirety of this book. Other information about the show, people who existed outside of time, the precipice, modes of transportation. That's it. That's really it. So for a tabletop RPG book, oh, and then these are just pictures of the DVD volume covers. And then I think there's one more section, episode previews. So I guess if you wanted to use them for inspiration, we have the BESM poster, another poster for a D20 product, and another poster for another D20 product, and that's it. So I know this is a quick one, but for the Trigun D20 role-playing game, it's not a role-playing game, and it's actually quite a disappointment that through the ages that this became what it was, because I would have been very interested to see how they would have interpreted mechanically the world of Trigun into D20 or any other system that they would have chosen to do. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a disappointment, but I do have Sailor Moon right next to me, so I'm going to make another video on that, and I'll get a little bit more history of Guardians of Order, because what seemed to have happened here is an interesting tragedy. Because it was successful, it seems like they overstretched, and then they sort of collapsed under their own weight, and then created stuff like this, essentially shovelware, to be frank, and because the internet wasn't that great at the time, you couldn't get reviews and review bomb things before the public got a hold of it. So pretty much you could sell a full price book, and this was $40. So, and even at the time that was a decent amount. So there you go. There's the Trigun ttrpg D20 system. Unfortunately, there's not really much you can do with this as a book. You might as well watch the show and get inspired, but if you need an art book with some episode recaps, that's pretty much what this book is. So there we go. Anyways, see you on the next one.